and welcome. What is this, number 179, I think? Sunday Live, 179. I think that's right. Eternalism says, oh my God, I'm late. I missed the first 15 minutes of this live stream. No, that was me. You're right on time. What's going on, good people? How are you out there? Want to see something cool? Ooh, we can talk about that. I'm giving away the secret. It's obviously an amps in the zone situation. What a fun amp. We can talk about that. Lots of time to talk about that, though. What kind of coffee is that? You know, I'm not sure what I'm drinking right now. It's might be these Peruvian beans that we had out there that I threw in the machine. Pretty good. Still trying to find one that I really like in that machine, to be honest. Nice glasses, says Ronnie. They're cheap. They're just drugstore jobbies, these ones. I need reading glasses now, so there's just no way around that. So I got to try and find some collection of cool ones, I guess. Or just makes it easier. But actually, I don't mind these. They're kind of cool. They're like $10. So, well, there's a super chat there, and it's Master Machetier. How did you learn the art of macheting? Thank you very much. Appreciate that for the super chat. And Arthur's up there as well to help you always keep you in the caffeine world. It's helpful. I'm more fun in the caffeine world. I think I've got a little American theme going on back here with my red and blue, and I just need white lights, but that would be boring. Kind of fun. Just noticed that. Yeah. What else? Hello from Portland, Oregon, says Miss Ann Thrope. What's up? So, what did I do this week? I put out a video for a fun Marshall in a box pedal. Well, it's right here. Look at it. There it is. The room number 40. That came out yesterday. I actually got some work stuff going this week, so I wasn't as productive as I had hoped I would be on YouTube. But I did manage to get this one out, and people seem to think it sounds really good. I think it sounds really good too. It's a anywhere from plexi, super lead, super bass through to 800 style tones. With a boost built in, so check that out if you don't mind. If you haven't seen it yet, nice pedal from my friends in Greece, Sakalis. I wish I was in Greece. That'd be nice. You know, sometimes you see these people on like Instagram or something, and they're like just hanging out in Mykonos or whatever, you know, and they're on a boat, motherfucker. They're on a boat. Yeah, it looks fun. Anyways, I'd love to. I haven't been there for a long time. 2007, last time I was in Greece. How would you compare Room 40 to Pedal Pal FX? I don't know that one. Pedal Pal FX. I have another nice one here. Let's give this one a little love from Volta. Just look at it. It's sexy. I like it. The 1987, obviously Marshall in a box as well style. So this one I'll be doing soon. Some great pedal. I mean, there's a lot of options out there for that style of pedal now, and they're, you know, this one sounds really good too. So it's tough to go wrong. Only $300, says Eternalism. Yeah, you know, small pedal companies, it can be it's tough, you know. They got to make the, you know, all the you know, well, I don't know how much they make, but get these things printed up and stuff, and do all the boxes, and you know, get the holes drilled in the right places and all that. It's expensive. I don't know. Hard, you know, it's not an easy thing. Nobody's getting rich making effects pedals. That's for sure. Damn, it's kind of hot in here. I'm gonna have to crank up the AC a little bit in a minute here. Pedal Pal 800 from Venezuela. Pretty killer. Haven't seen that one. That's not one I've seen yet. Yeah. Ronnie Ward says, speaker cab design so important for getting your speakers to be efficient. I once put some expensive JBL speakers into a poorly designed cabinet. Couldn't hear anything. Yeah, it's funny. We were talking about cabinets yesterday, actually. I was hanging out with Dave Friedman and Warren DeMartini, and we were talking about speaker cabinets and how the cabinet can have such an effect on the sound. Anybody out there ever try those high, the high watt cabinets with the port? I was just mentioning those because a buddy of mine, I always remember getting, ingrained with what I thought was great guitar sounds. And a buddy of mine in the 80s, he had Marshall cabs and a high watt cab and stuff that he would always load with old 25s or 30s or sometimes a mix. He was the first guy I ever saw mix 25s and 30s. And he had a high watt cab that he was like, this cab sounds really good. And it didn't have fanes. He put Celestions in it. And it was just really good sounding. And something about the port. So I guess Dave Friedman actually copied that port in his 212 cabinets. He's got like a horizontal 212, but with a port at the bottom, and it opened it up. He said it sounded really good. So, have you checked out Chase Bliss much? What's your favorite? Look at all you guys with your super chats. That's amazing. Thank you. Appreciate it. I love the Chase Bliss big pedals with the sliders. Both the preamp and the reverb are awesome, and I'm going to put them on a board when I get around to it here. Let's check out a couple of these super chats. Nick Purdy says, Coffee Cash. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. He says, have you ever considered doing online classes or lessons like Tim Pierce or Paul Davids? Yeah, I mean, I have. And I might at some point, investigate that. I was around when Tim was developing his course, because it was around the time we were starting to do Tim and Pete show and stuff. And then he released it, I think, when we were doing that. And I saw the amount of work he put in. I mean, he worked for a long time to build up enough material. It's just a time investment and an organizational. Tim is such a focused guy, and he really worked hard to, without any kind of, just sort of like building a small business before you actually open up, it's a lot of work, a lot of prep work and stuff. And I saw him do all that. So it's just devoting that time and, having a concept. And he had the concept and the vision, and he put in the work and the time, and it's really paid off for him, So I would just have to develop that and devote the time. And I'm always feeling like we do YouTube a little bit differently. He went at it from a sort of business perspective from that. Like, I'm going to have a studio guitar masterclass, develop my channel, get subscribers, and build up a thing and then I'm going to release this masterclass, and that's going to be what it's all for, basically. Whereas me, it's a lot of the videos about pedals and things like that. So I've just kind of got at it a different way. But Tim's, from a long-term perspective, is very, very, very smart the way that he did it, and it's great. I mean, you're getting this education from this guy that you couldn't ask for a better teacher, So we'll see. Joe Wright Music up there in the super chat, and he's just saying, hey, thanks, man. I appreciate that, Joe. I do. And Ronan Lone Wolf says, howdy, Pete. Any idea what effect EVH used on the intro? Hear about it later. That's the flanger. If you watch my first pedal board video I made in 2011 or so, Pete Thorn's new pedal board, volume 1 or whatever, it's in 2011. It's in that old house that I used to be in Santa Monica. I play Hear About It Later on there, the intro, and you can hear that it basically sounds exactly like it. And all that is the EVH flanger in front of the clean channel on my PT100. And I've got the flanger with the EVH button pushed in, and it's pretty much nails that sound. It's a great sound. I've always loved that sound. That particular, his flanger setting is so cool. And it's in my ears. Some people like all the old ones better. I don't hear that. I hear when I listen to the record and I play the part and I listen to it, be it Unchained or be it Any Talking About Love or be it Hear About It Later, when I play with that pedal, with that setting, with the button pushed in, it sounds exactly like the sound to me. So look no further than the EVH's black and white flanger, with the stripes and stuff. Oops, I just had something I just lost a question there. Just one sec here. One sec. Oh, there's lots of you guys here, 325 folks here, and lots of great questions and stuff. This is going to be fun. Paul says, watching the 2009 Pink Pop show, did you break a string in the beginning of Part of Me? Oh, maybe. Probably. If you saw me switch a guitar, it's quite possible. Also love that harmony line. Oh yeah, the harmony line in that song. God, that was a wacky song. It's not my favorite song, but wacky song with that funny little harmony at the end and all that. But anyways, yeah. That was a tough one. I don't we won't get into that, but I just had a, you know, that was one of those tunes. The Scream record was a complicated record. Let's put it that way. There's some really good stuff on there actually, but there's not some of my favorite stuff on there too. You know what I mean? So it's like not my favorite stuff, and it's kind of mixed up in there. And I think it was challenging, but you know, but I never told Chris that. That's for sure. And when it was like, you know, it's sort of my job to like, it's like, well, our job as a band, at least my job, is to go out and deliver this music as best as we possibly can. So let's go do that. And that's what I always did, you know, as an employee and also as a friend. So that was my approach to it. And sort of the approach, if you watch us live playing it and stuff, I was like, we're going to go out and play this like we do everything else. So we're going to go and play like a rock band. We're going to rock. That's the way we'll do it. And we'll do it to the best of our abilities. I think that's the first time I've ever mentioned that I had some, shall we say, mixed feelings. But, you know, it's true. That's the way I felt about it. I played on that record too. So I played on 2 songs. Climbing Up the Walls, and I like that song actually. That's a cool little tune. Great bridge that kind of comes around twice in that song. Pretty cool tune. I always like that one. Great chorus. Ronan says, any idea what effect? Oh no, sorry, I got that one already. And then Ronan's there in the super. Ronan, you're too kind. What's up in the super chats? All right, what else we got here? Go down through the questions and comments. Love to see a Marshall in a box shootout. Sounds ranging from traditional Marshall. I have enough now. I can probably put together 10, no problem. And yeah, I mean, that's actually a really good idea for a video. Marshall in a box pedal shootout. Just kind of A/B them. I could, you know, it'd be not that hard if I came up with one cool riff and I tried to make the video not too like insane, like my pickup shootout or whatever. Let's make it, you know, 10 pedals in 10 minutes or something. Marshall in a box, and I record one loop into the looper, you know, and boom, through all the pedals, and I just dial them in to make them sound as good as I can each one. That'd be cool, right? I mean, that'd probably tell you just about what you need to know. I think I like that idea. Good idea for a YouTube video. Thank you, Arthur. Okay. Tinkerbell got back from the market, got $50 worth of soup and canned fruit. Come on now. That split pea soup. Hook me up. What delay and reverb in front of an SLO 100? That's a really tough one, because if you're using gain, but you're going to want to use a dark on the dark side. On the dark side. Remember that song? Sorry. You're going to want to use a delay that is either something that you can fine tune the high end, you know, like the analog SIR delay will actually work great because the mix control is really friendly and it's dark and you can tune it in. And so that or a tape delay of some sort. The Echoplex can work pretty good from I run it in front, you know, the MXR Echoplex pedal. So you could give that a go. Reverb, I would also recommend actually the MXR M300, which has a very friendly mix control. George Tripp's designed those, and he designed them to kind of be run in front of amps, I think. But you're never going to get quite what you want running stuff in front. If you want clean delays and nice reverbs, you know, if you want them, they're going to blow up a little bit no matter what if you're using gain. So just be aware. But those are the pedals I would try, probably the Echoplex or the SIR delay, and the or something dark and analog, you know, carbon copy maybe even on the cheaper end. And that's actually what Warren uses. Warren DeMartini uses carbon copies. He's got 2 on his board, and he uses those in front of SLO a lot live now. And the MXR M300 reverb, kind of an underrated reverb, I think. Matthew Kennedy says, I've got an audition coming up. I'm confident in my playing. I've already got a relationship with the band members. That's good. But artist management is really involved. Any tips for winning them over? just be really cordial and polite and not difficult, and just seem like you're a team player. I mean, it's really just that kind of stuff. They're just going to want to know that somebody's not going to be a wrench in the, or a, wrench in the works. You know, they're going to want to know that you're, that you're in it to win it and not going to be a problem, you know? So beyond that, you know, it really is just sort of a level of they're just, you know, and also management can be concerned with things like the look of the band, you know. I mean, more than the guys in the band are going to be more hip to your musicianship and stuff like that. But you never know. Sometimes management's, you know, somebody knows what's going on musically over there too. But generally speaking, it's just be friendly. It's really. I've got a little thing going on this week too, where I'm trying to suss it out and see if it's going to pan out similar. And just being really friendly and being really professional all the time and stuff, and being like a problem. I always say being a problem solved, because the problem is they don't have a player, they need somebody, and you want to solve that problem. So just be the obvious solution in every way possible. Not a pain in the butt, not high maintenance and all that. Paul says, you are best player ever. I would give that award to Mike Landau, even over Jeff Beck. But I love Jeff Beck too. But thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. Too kind, too kind, too kind. How do you use physical pedals and your DAW? That's not a dumb question at all, Carrie. There's different ways to do it. So if you want to, you can use them in front. Like if you're using an amp sim, by just simply plugging into them, and you go into the high Z input on your interface. So just like you would be plugging into basically the high Z input on a interface, like my UA interfaces here, they act like the input on a guitar amp. If you plug in there, it's the impedance is the same and stuff like that as your average guitar amp, and they see, you know, that's what they're designed to do. With that said, you know, if you use a crazy clean boost with 20 dB of boost, you probably can clip the analog to digital converter in the interface and stuff. So there's some pedals that might not work that you could use with a traditional guitar amp. But if it's choruses and delays and, you know, kind of unity gain overdrives and distortions and stuff, you're okay to do that. Now, if you want to use a pedal after the fact to affect a track, that is a little more complicated, but still doable. You can take an output out of your interface, one of the line outputs, you route a track. Let's say you want to use an MXR flanger. You would route the output of that individual track out and out on the interface to out and out, out and out, if you're from Canada, out and out. And you would come out of your interface. Now, what you're going to want to do is go into some sort of impedance transforming device, like from Radial, for instance. They've got a thing called a reamp. It's a little blue box that looks like a DI. And it basically will take the signal coming out of your interface and convert it into something like what your guitar amplifier would want to see on the input. You know what I mean? Or a pedal, like basically converting it back to a high impedance signal. And then you can go into your pedal and come out of the pedal, go back into the high Z input on your interface and route that to another track. And now you're printing that already recorded track onto another track. And then you can do that and mute the old track, and now you've got your track with your flanger on it or whatever. Hopefully that makes sense. But you do generally speaking, you need to route out of a line out of your interface, and if you really kind of want to do it right, it's best to go into like one of those radio reamp devices or something similar. There's probably other companies that make them. I'm going to call them something else. Radio might have a trademark on reamp. I'm not sure, because they call theirs the reamp, I think. I used to have one. Yeah. Yeah. What else have we got here? Let's see. Just your usual Saturday night hang with Dave and Warren. Warren is a great guy. He's such a sweet dude. I really like him. I've met. He's been around Dave's shop a few times now when I've been in, and he's really into the nuts and bolts of like amps, and he's really like excited to like still like learn things about, so what happens with like this part of the circuit when this is going in here, and you know, he asks Dave a lot of questions and stuff. I do that shit too, so I really appreciate that. about him, and he's just really, really nice too. He's like a super sweet guy, you know. I just like him as a person a lot, so that's cool. A lot of these guys are great, you know, and I must say, through knowing Dave, I've met a lot of my heroes from when I was a kid. I mean, George, Lynch, and Warren, and you know, Eddie. I mean, Steve Vai. These are all folks that I really kind of met through Dave. And so I thank Dave for that, you know, profusely, because it's really nice. And you know what? They're all actually very, very cool people. You know, and it's so it's just really nice, you know. It's a cool thing. Good hang we have going in here in LA. For all the disparaging comments that people make about LA. Yeah, they don't know what they're talking about. We have fun around here. We do. Is there a good overdrive for smooth, warm distortion with plexi style amp and Marshall cab? Well, I mean, that sort of sounds like a Klon to me. If you want smooth and warm, the way a Klon kind of fattens up and thickens up the low mids and can round the top out a little bit, I'd say look no further. An Archer, you know, that's what I use. And for a great, you know, it kind of gives you a great fat lead thing. Pretty nice. So that's probably what I would do if I was you. Well, I'm kind of way back here because you folks are talking about ported cabinets, and that was 15 minutes ago I was doing that, so I should move down a little. If I miss questions, just hit me again. What's your favorite 112? That's great. I like that I'm hitting these faster today too. What's your favorite 112? CAE ported. I like the CAE style, and the Sir, you know, the Sir 112 that we did with the H75 is a terrific sounding cabinet. We did it for the P215, and I really like the, oh, and you're saying greenback 25 versus 20. In a 112, I like a higher power speaker, just because then I can use it with other amps and not worry about, like, I'm pushing the hell out of the speaker in this little, imagine a speaker like that's kind of low wattage in a little cabinet that's sealed, especially. Well, the port helps, but if it's ported, but still, there's that speaker's, you know, I don't know. I veer towards the higher power, you know, like even a Redback is one that Dave likes, actually, the 150 watt speaker. It sounds good, kind of warm on the top end, a little rolled off, but it's a great sounding, kind of in a greenbacky way. So I would look at that Redback in a 112, but also the Greenback H75, and it's stood the test of time too. We've put a ton of those in cabinets, and they just the Greenback H75 is a really, really nice all-around speaker from clean through to dirty. So it's got a great balanced sound with a really nice top, like chimey top end and stuff for clean too. Not as much as an Alnico, but it's got a great sound. I also really like but speaking of Alnico, I like the 100 watt Alnico Cream. That's an amazing sounding speaker. So for a lot of stuff, just a sweet sounding speaker. Yeah. And I like the original. I like the CAE style. And if you had to ask me about another one, I like the little Bogner. Is cool too. Always a great sounding cabinet. There's a super chat up there. Let's see. 3 Desert Island pedals. Do that one quick. Tuner. Gotta have that. I'd go crazy with that one. A Polytune Mini, probably. I would say give me an Archer and give me that new Sir delay, and I'm a happy guy because I can do chorus with it too. There we go. Down to the bottom of the chat here, I'm going to light up this super chat. What do we got here? I'm bored of literally everything I play. I get that. So that happens sometimes. Stuck in a rut. Does that ever happen? What do you do to get out of it? Why don't you take up, like, buy a cheap nylon string that's nice and take up learning classical and reading or something. That's really fun for me when I do that. Like if I sit and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna learn how to, you know, and then you play and it's like you feel like kind of a beginner again, and it's like, oh, but I'm getting it, you know. And after a couple weeks, and you read through, and it gives you a whole different perspective on, you know, maybe work on, if you feel like maybe the neck is a mystery, work on the cage system or something. Playing through chord changes all in one position, you know, and making all the changes and hitting all the chord tones, you know, as the chords go by. Simple melodies. Maybe starting off by playing the chords of a song as the progression is going by in one position, but as arpeggios. you know, so you're seeing that you're visualizing the chord tones as the chords are going by. Not so much thinking about bending and all that stuff, but more thinking about just playing through and nailing the chord tones as single notes. There's a couple ideas. You know, with a metronome, maybe. Well, that's, I guess it's a track you're playing to, but doing it maybe all quarter notes or all eighth notes or something like that. Just mixing it up, doing something totally different, you know, diving into, how about a slide guitar course, you know? I was looking the other day I was in a store and they had that old Warren Haynes slide book. I thought, because I don't consider myself a great slide player, I thought I had it at one point, I think, where I had an instructional video. I thought I should get into that and just like, how about tackle slide? Let's tackle, you know, put your guitar in open G and just play slide for a week. Google or YouTube or whatever, like, you know, slide lessons in open G and just get some cool slide stuff down, you know. There you go. Knock yourself out of your comfort zone, you know. Awesome channel, Pete, says Renaud. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. What's your favorite Octafuzz? Boy, a lot of really cool questions this week, like that I've never had before. My favorite Octafuzz, full tone, it'd probably be cool. Vespa, I haven't tried that. The Sir, I believe it's the second one, the Rufus Reloaded, will do. I think that is the one that has kind of a muff style fuzz, but then also has an octave in it, an octave fuzz. It's got both, and you can switch between them. So that's really nice and versatile. So don't discount that one. Look at that one, the Sir Rufus. I just can't remember which one, if it's the Rufus or Rufus Reloaded that has the octave fuzz. Don't discount also the original Boss Hyper Fuzz if you can find them, because they're kind of rare and they're pretty popular now as a, you know, kind of collectible. But man, that pedal, that's kind of, for a long time I had that on my board, and it's such a great sounding. It's cool as an octave fuzz because it does the octave thing, but it's also almost got a muff thing going on at the same time. So it's not just the kind of lower gain, spittier octave fuzz thing that you would run into gain. It's more like a gnarly fuzz that does octave when you move up above the 12th fret, and it's a great sound. Really, really great sound. So there's some of my favorites. Is the Sir Discovery Delay released yet? I see only pre-order. The reason is because they sold out of so many. I think they shipped around, I don't know exactly, but it was in the hundreds. It was 100 to 200, something like that. They shipped. So a bunch of dealers in Europe got them, bunch, you know, other dealers got them. But it was such a success and people were so knocked out that literally, like, you know, as I understand it, if a dealer, like some dealers, some of the bigger dealers had ordered like a whole bunch, like 40 or something, and the day after the release, they ordered another 40. Because it was like, these are all going, like, so it's out there, but it's just a question of how many can they make. And it's just been a really, really huge success. So that's why you're seeing now the deal with the back order is that like with everything, Sir is dealing with trying to get parts that they need to make things for, like, you're probably hearing this out there, that, you know, things like chips and stuff. It's been tough. So trying to procure enough to make them, that's all it is. So it's a quality problem. It's a good problem to have, you know, but, you know, just if you can find one or get on a waiting list, you should probably do it, because we don't know when the, you know, these supply chain issues, we as customers, we don't know when these things are going to, you know, it's just been kind of the way it is. I'm sure it'll even out over the next year or two, but it's been an issue. You have these issues where there's big companies that are evidently, as it's been described to me, like electronic stuff, like car companies. If there's a certain electronic chip that's made, that could be the same thing that's used in guitar effects or something, you know, for a car or for another type of electronic product, right? And so you're buying these from the people that distribute these, you know, chips and things like that. And they will buy, like, one day you'll see them on the website, you know, if you're sitting there and you're procuring parts for your gear to make stuff. And the next day you'll go back and they'll all be sold out. And some company will have bought like 10,000 of them because, like, they're just like, well, we don't know when they're going to come again. It's panic buying, just like toilet paper. Just like people were doing in the pandemic. That's what's going on. But it's on a, you know, corporate industrial manufacturing level. It's crazy. So when you see these shortages, that's what's happening. So get on waiting lists and stuff, and just bear with it if you're you know, wanting something, because that's just how it is. That's the world we're living in right now. Suggestions for a medium output A2 bridge pickup in a mahogany super strat, maple neck, ebony board for big Les Paul tones. Pasadena black in my Ash super strat. Yeah, I'm really digging on the A2 thing myself these days, and that's all I'll say about that. But can't say more. But I'm digging on it, so that probably means that I'm working on something like that. But I have to say, if you've got a Pasadena Black, just give that nice gentleman some business for now, and get one of his Pasadena Whites, because that's an amazing sounding pickup. So really, really good. The other ones you could get are 78 from Duncan, the Rewind Electric. You know, they're all in the 9K, kind of in the A2. You know, the good old, you know, Alnico 2 Pro is a nice pickup from Duncan as well. In the kind of class that you're looking for. Music Therapy Laz is up there in the super chat and sent a super sticker. Thank you, my friend. Always here. Thank you. I appreciate you. I do. Great questions this week. Really great questions this week. It's super nice. Oh yeah, we should mention this as well. Don't know if you mentioned Jeff LaBar's passing. It was sad to hear, you know. I didn't know that much about him, actually. I remember listening to Cinderella. I can clearly remember, this is the guitarist of Cinderella we're talking about, passed away this week at 58 years old. I clearly remember hanging out in Palm Springs with my parents when I was like 16. We came down to California on a family vacation. And I can remember sitting up by the pool with my Walkman and listening to a Cinderella cassette, you know. And yeah. And, you know, great band. They had cool tunes, and Tom's really cool. You know, I always liked his music, but I didn't know really basically anything about Jeff, I must say. But I did read, you know, when he passed away, I read some of the things that he said in recent times in interviews and stuff, and it is a little heartbreaking. He seemed like a guy that was with a lot of demons and stuff, and like a lot of folks, you know, and that he was really aware of it and kind of taking responsibility for his, like, you know, you know, it was sad because he was like saying like, you know, all the problems with the band and us not getting back together and stuff, you can kind of put on me, and, you know, Tom, you know, I don't blame him for not wanting to work with me and things like that. He was just very like, wow, it's like, and it was a little heartbreaking for sure, you know, to read, but and in the same way, I love it when people take responsibility for, you know, for things. And so at least he was, you know, before he's, you know, it's at 58, so young to pass away, but at least he was taking responsibility. And that's got to give you some degree of peace, I guess, if you're, you know, not, you know, the ego is diminished and stuff. You're finally kind of, you know, accepting the fact that your shortcomings and stuff, there's a freedom in that, I think, anyways, but really too young, you know. On that note, while we're in the somber mode for just a second, today is would have been my mother's birthday, to my mom's birthday. She would have been 79 today, and yesterday was my dad's birthday. He would have been 80. So they had birthdays one day, you know, consecutive days. Kind of interesting, but a year apart. So he would have been 80 yesterday, and my mom would have been 79 today. So love you guys. Anyways, all right. Let's see. What else have we got here? What's your favorite wood for an Explorer? Well, now it's that one, which isn't an Explorer at all, is it? It's its own thing. But the San Ash, that guitar, I mean, it sounds so good. It's one of my best sounding guitars. I actually picked it up over my 335 the other day. I was doing the demo for this pedal, the Room 40, and I was like, it sounded good with the 335, but then I picked up that guitar and I was like, yep, this is the one. It's just got a bit more nuts, you know, and it sounds amazing, that guitar. So, you know, somebody, Ibanez should be making that guitar again. So Ibanez, if you're listening, you should be making, why the hell haven't you made that guitar? I mean, I get that I think you could probably get away with the body. I don't know about that headstock. But you should be doing that guitar in some form or another, and because there's such a story behind it with Eddie Van Halen and Ace Frehley and stuff like that, using that guitar in that form. I mean, it wasn't, you know, that's the Van Halen one sound, a big part of it anyway, half of it. So it's like, you know, come on, Ibanez, pop a super distortion in the bridge or whatever and produce that guitar, and you got a winner. You know, maybe do 2 colors, natural and white, like he used in the club days. I don't know, just cool. Let's see. What are you thinking when you improvise? Solo, scales, caged, intervals, nothing, kind of all of that, including nothing, to be honest. I don't ever approach it quite the same way twice, but the main thing I do is follow my ear. I'm really a by ear player, so I try and follow my internal melody or arc of the way a solo should go, you know? Like, I'll try and get the guitar out of the way for a minute, actually, so that I don't fall into just patterns and things like that, and listen to where my ear wants to go, which doesn't necessarily define like exact licks and stuff and phrasing, but it's more like, okay, I want to wait until beat 2 and then come in with something here, and then I'll hear a note or something, and then I'll try and find it, and then, you know, and now I should do this, and now I should answer that with something, and then I should repeat the first phrase, but maybe up an octave, you know. And I'm thinking about things like that, like, but I'm sort of unconsciously thinking about that, not like verbatim, just like letting my, you know, almost as a singer, you know, it's helpful to think like a singer, to kind of you know, to see where your internal voice would take you, if that makes sense. So I hope that's helpful. Plexco, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What are your favorite plugins for early 70s rock guitar tones? Fender Tweed, Vox, AC30 rhythm tones. Well, I just tried one of those new, it's Nembrini, and they make an AC30, and it's really good. You can hear a video I did for it. Fender Tweed, there's a really nice UA Fender Tweed plugin. I did a video for that as well, so those would be my picks, I guess, for that. But yeah, probably look no further. You're mentioning Beatles. I'll probably look no further than that Nembrini AC30 plugin, because it's a tough one to get in a plugin. There's not a lot of them out there that I've found anyway. I mean, I guess all, like, you know, Helix and Helix Native will have AC30s. I kind of like the matchlesses in Helix as well. If you want to check those out, matchless channel 1 and 2 are nice for that AC30 style thing. But yeah, the Nembrini is a terrific AC30 plugin, so look no further than that. Now, I would say that's one of the only ones I can think of, really, that's a dedicated AC30 plugin. Anybody watching the McCartney Rick Rubin thing on Hulu? It's awesome. You got to check it out. I love how they did it, which is very informal, and it's just kind of like, it's great. It's great chat, just listening to the music. I mean, McCartney's recollections as the music's playing. So what it is they've got a console, and they're in a studio in a room, and they're listening to music, and Rick's just pulling up the masters and pulling up faders up and down and going, what was this all about? And then McCartney's pointing things out too, like, wow, that's a, you know, gnarly bass tone on this one song. Or I say things as he's playing the music, and then he says them. It was so cool. Like when they were listening to Michelle, and it got to the part where it slows down. I'm like, yeah, it's so weird how it slows down so much there. And then McCartney tells the story. Yeah, it slows down a lot because we were trying to do this thing, and it's sort of, you know, and he like tells this whole story about how, you know, and I was like, oh, that's so cool, because I always wondered why that was the take. It's a little odd to me. And he even says, he goes, it sort of sounds like we're making a mistake, like, but they were actually going for it, and then they left it. And like, in retrospect, you know, it's really cool. And then there's the bass part in another song where I was like, damn, that is a gnarly bass sound. Then he goes, it's a very aggressive bass tone. I thought, this is really cool. It's like you're kind of like you're there with them, you know, and listening to, and, you know, in a way that when you're soloing parts, you know, it's a special kind of thing. Friedman Jake E. Lee head, have you played it? No, but I heard Jake play it right when he got his first one. We went and saw him. I went with Dave and saw him at the Whiskey, actually, and stood right in front of him, and it sounded ripping. It's essentially kind of a slightly modified, on the main channel, it's a slightly modified JCM 800 circuit that he cranks. So he's running it super loud, you know, mastered on 8 or something, on 100 watt, you know, and that's a big part of the sound. It sounds amazing. Really, really, really great tone. Loved your EL34 shootout. Thoughts on the best tone, reliable 6L6. JJs were okay for a while, but have become quite noisy. That's interesting. I would probably, I mean, if you, I don't know what's going on with the stuff from China now. Those TADs were really highly regarded for a while. They make two different ones. One I think was more like a GE, and one was more like an RCA. So look into seeing if you can get some of those. They had the black plate RCA style, I think. If you could still find some of those from TAD, if they still, I'm not sure how, there was the issue with the factory over there in China and whether or not that affected, as it is still, I don't know if it's, like that. Maybe they're in short supply. I would probably look at EH, as well as, the 5881, the Sovtech. It's not exactly, but you can use them. And that is known as a very, very reliable tube. It's the one that, they've been using Solbano forever, and it's a really reliable tube. So look into that one, I would say. Yeah, see if you can find some of those TADs. If you can't, like either TAD, depending on whether you want the RCA thing and the more GE thing. And if you can't, then look at EH and look at 5881s too. Self-tech. Tube's been made forever, and it's known as being very reliable and a good sounding tube. Yeah. I'm about to watch that McCartney series, says Ben Tom. You're gonna love it. It's great. I watched 2 last night, and I'm gonna watch the other one soon. So for sure. Yeah. Have you tried the new George Lynch cab plugin in IRs? I haven't yet, actually. Looking forward to it though. Want to try them. So interesting aside, one of the speakers that we used you remember the first video I did with Dave, the Eddie Van Halen tone deep dive about the amp and the effects and all that stuff, not the pickup one, but the previous one. That's one of those speakers that was in that cabinet. The JBL. It was George's speaker. So it was in my cabinet, an old Marshall cabinet with the black back, and then that one. And so, but anyways, George bought that old cab that supposedly was originally one of Eddie's stripped cabinets, and then he had the bottom loaded with 2 greenbacks and then the 2 JBLs in the top. So I look forward to trying the IRs for sure. See what they sound like. Plus a bunch of his other great cabs. The video he made was great. He did a video for 2 Notes. And he's, that's George. He's so, you really get a sense of his passion for searching for guitar tone, but also how articulate he is. And I love that he made that video for them and stuff. That he's got a great sense of humor. He's a really, really funny guy. But yeah, and he's still really excited about guitar. He's just as much as ever. I mean, he's on this hunt for great sounds all the time, and it's a cool thing to see. A lot of these guys, like I say at the beginning, it's like you see him, you'd see him in that video and you'd get a sense of that, I think. But him and Warren, I mean, they're just really cool guys, nice people. And I think they're, it's just neat to comment on that, I think. And, these are a lot of my heroes from when I grew up. So it's cool that they're such nice people too. And still really passionate about guitar. Do you ever feel a conflict of interest when demoing new pedals from different builders that go after very similar things? Maybe a little bit if they come out at the same time, but not really too much. Okay, so it's interesting. I'm doing 2 pedals right now that are kind of like that. This one, the Room 40, I put out yesterday. And then I've got this one on my desk at the same time, the 1987 from Volta. And this gentleman actually contacted me and said, hey, I saw the video you did for the Room 40, great video, and it sounded really good. He was complimentary towards the other, so it's, it is what it is. I mean, there's only so many designs out there, and sometimes people go for the same things, and I do feel a little bit of that. But even in the okay, if we take the Sur delay as well as the Rocket delay, they're a little different. The Rocket delay is more akin to an old Memory Man in its function and in its tones, for sure. It doesn't sound the same as the Sur. The modulation, It doesn't have as much headroom, I'll say, but neither did an old Memory Man. So you might like that, and then other people might want the more headroom. It's also the Rocket Delay's got a stereo thing. It's not really true stereo, but it's the faux stereo where they take one output and put it out of phase with the other one, which does create a kind of a neat stereo thing. The only dilemma that you get into is if you were to collapse that sound down to mono, the delay would disappear because it's out of phase. So that's intentionally what Kevin told me why he didn't design his pedal that way. So there's still these differences, you know, they're not all the same. It's just like a Friedman or a Marshall or, you know, a Fender or, you know, whatever, you know, other types of similar amps to Fender or something, you know, people are going to go for one or the other, and it's just is what it is. So anyways, what else we got here? Looking through the chat here and find something cool to talk about. Lauren says, when a guitar player plays like a singer, the story always relates to the listener. That's a nice way to put it, Lauren. Always, you know, your voice is, I remember from my earliest music lessons, my violin teacher, I started on violin. In my earliest music lessons, the violin teacher was saying, the violin is the closest instrument to the human voice. And I always thought, oh, that's really interesting. I mean, at 9 years old or whatever, to hear that, like, what do you mean? And it's like, well, it's in the same range, and there's no frets. So, you know, the way you can slide around between notes and do things on the violin is very close to the human voice. And that's why it can be, it's an emotional instrument to play, you know, melodies on, and so, you know, it connects. By emotional, I mean it like connects to people because it's close to the voice. It's very vocal, actually, the violin, you know, more so than a lot of instruments, you know. So even guitar, I mean, guitar you can get there too because you can bend and you can play slide and stuff. But that's also why slide guitars, so because you can get around in between the notes and kind of play, you know. And I do think there's something to that, you know, like, the closer we are to singing what's in our head on the instrument, the more it can relate. It's why David Gilmour or Jeff Beck, you know, really, because we've ended as lovers, right? You know, it's just like he's singing with the guitar, and it's epically beautiful, you know. So anyways, your tone videos are awesome. Your interviews with Dave Friedman are great. Thanks, Julian. Well, Dave and I are good friends, so that probably comes across that, you know, it's not my, when we talk, that's how we talk in person all the time. So, you know, it's cool, you know, and we've got a good mutual respect for one another and stuff. So I think that helps for us making nice videos together occasionally when we do those things. I did find out that Ace loaded his Destroyer with super distortion as well. I think he mainly just kind of used super distortions in his guitars a lot. I mean, Les Pauls and, you know, he really, that was a big part of his tone, I think, you know, probably, you know, 2203, 2204 style amps and super distortions and Gibson guitars, you know, or the Ibanez. I have to say, George Lynch is such an inspiration. He's almost 70 and still I think you're saying consummate guitarist. That dude rules. Yeah, and he is young for his age. I mean, he looks great. He's like, you know, he's real fit, and he's, you know, pick up those 412s and stuff and put them in his big old truck, and, you know, he's not, he doesn't strike you as slowing down at all. Never. Like, he's just, and he's really positive too. Like, that's another thing. His outlook is really, you know, he's just a positive guy. So it's like really cool. I think that's got a lot to do with it. His mental state drives him and keeps him young and vital, and seems like he's having a good time, you know. Funny too, man. His sense of humor never shuts off. Really cool. I heard from Philip McKnight he loved your playing too. Who? My playing? I wonder who. Love to you as you celebrate your folks, Pete, says Vincent. Thanks, man. I appreciate that, Vincent. Thank you so much. And for the coffee inspiration over the years. Yeah. How common is it to write solos going into a session and seeing what comes out? Well, it's kind of half and half. It depends what makes you comfortable. But a lot of times when you go into a session, you don't have anything planned. You don't know what the song is, like a lot of the sort of more like, I'm not a Tim Pierce when it comes to sessions and stuff, but I've done sessions, over my share of sessions, I guess. And many times you're going in and learning the song that day. So, can be, so sometimes it's not. Sometimes you'll get things in advance and then you'll be able to plan things out a little bit more. But it just depends. Just depends. So one of the great things about tracking songs, like that we lose a little bit maybe when we do everything in our studios alone, and we can make everything perfect and there's nobody there to kind of bounce things off of, that spontaneity of going into a studio with other musicians, and group of good players getting in a studio and then listening to a track or a demo on the fly, maybe charting it out a little bit, or learning the progression. Okay, see where it's going. Maybe make a few changes to what if we went to here in the bridge instead? A chord gets changed, whatever. And then you kind of, okay, shall we try running through this? And then you run through it, and people make a couple errors or whatever, and then you like start doing some takes, and that not knowing the song very well thing, but enough to kind of get through it. And then you feel, sometimes it could be the first take, or sometimes it could be the 10th take, but you feel when you're running through it, now we're playing the song. I love that feeling with a group of players. Have you ever felt that? Like where like everybody's not thinking, okay, we got this, let's do one more. And then the drummer counts it down, you get into it, and you play a take, and it's like, now we're playing music. Everybody just quit thinking. I love it. It's like this organic melding of the minds in the studio where if you're all on the same page and stuff and everybody's pretty good players, you feel it when we just played the song for the first time right now. Before that, we were working through the song, and then you play the song and you're like, that was a pretty good take, and you feel when it gels, but nobody knows the song that well yet. And there's a magic to that, where it just came out of nowhere. 2 hours ago, nobody knew the song. And now you just put this thing down and it's not too perfect or practiced or whatever. That's a great thing about getting people that can kind of only happen organically when you get people in the room together. And it's a different thing when everybody tracks the parts separately and has time to work out something. And that can work okay too, but that magic it's very special when you feel that, like everybody just, oh, I love that feeling. Now we're playing music. We just played music. There it was, it's really cool. So, yeah. Greg T says, in memory and honor of your parents. Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate that. I'll buy some coffee. Oh, man. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. That moment is the reason to play music. It's magic, says the guitar effect. Yeah, it's really cool, isn't it? Like more than practicing licks and playing on Instagram and playing with people and feeling like, wow, we just really made some music together. It's really cool, that connection. And when everybody's listening, a little while ago, I guested on Tone Talk when they had Tom Bukovac on, and he was talking about that when, folks play through. He was mentioning how important it is for players to listen to one another, because you might play through the song as you're getting to know it in the studio. It's a group of studio musicians, and somebody plays on somebody else's lick, like somebody does a little walk and somebody else does an alternate thing, and then it didn't quite work. But if you were listening, the cooler thing, the thing that should happen, is obvious to both people. And the next time you run through it, that doesn't happen again. The one that was stepping on the other one plays off and the other one does their thing, and it's like an unspoken thing. It's so cool. Like that kind of, and that only comes from like really listening, when nobody's in it for the ego. It's not about that. It's about like the best idea shines through and everybody kind of hears that. When, you know what I mean? Like, when you're not putting your ego first, the idea that should speak there, be it a bass walking line or something to go into a chorus or something, you stay out of the way for a minute because it was the most powerful thing. Or maybe it's a drum fill, You just let the chord ring. You know what I mean? I don't know. Fat Bottom Girls when he does the huge. Everybody else just rings there, you know, and they let the drum fill. Now that's probably something they worked out, but you know what I mean? Like that. It's just like, let's just not play over that and let that be one of the most badass drum fills ever in rock history. You know, we'll let that speak for a bar. You know, so. Anyways, I love that stuff. What else we got here? Let's see. I watched a couple Jaco Pastorius documentaries last night. What an incredible mind. Improvised for a 30-minute jam at the drop of a hat. Yeah, he's a legend. I mean, that is for sure. Yeah. Okay. Vi still playing great too. Well, that guy is nothing but a inspiration to us all, right? I mean, like, he's so cool. He's always pushing to do the next thing, and not repeat himself. And you know, it's amazing. So, the solo you did on that Holly Henderson song was really great. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's such a beautiful song she wrote. Have you guys heard that tune? Check out Holly's tune, Old War, New War. And she had me play a solo on it. And God, she's such a good songwriter. She's so talented beyond. I'm, you know, lucky to have gotten to do stuff with her. And she's, you know, making music all the time and writing music. And she's, you know, she's one of my best friends. But God, what a person she is. You know, like just such a lovely person. But also, like, where does that talent come from? She's one of the most naturally gifted people I've ever met in my life when it comes to, like, where does that come from? Like, she just, you know, she's also studied art in college, and you should see her, you know, paintings and drawings and stuff. It's unbelievable. But she's just a real crazy artist with next level instincts. With Holly, it was like one of those things where she would write something, as I produced her first record, right? And it was one of those things where she would write something, she would have this whole bridge section that she wanted to do or something. And there'd be a chord in it where I would be like, oh, I don't know about that chord, you know, that's kind of weird. And then I'd have to go like, okay, just don't say anything. Just, can you play that for me again? And then she'd play it again. And then like, maybe I'd sit for it for a few hours, and then I'd listen and go, God, it's amazing. You know, like, stay out of the way. Don't, because I really feel like her ears are bigger than mine, you know, the way that she would hear things. It was an amazing thing because I met her when she was maybe 18 or 19 or something like that. 19, I think. And she sent me these demos and things that she was working on. And this is where she would record into her. She's got a whole, you know, she's actually really good, like, at engineering and mixing and stuff now. She's learned how to do everything basically on her own. But at that point, she was using a laptop and Logic and no interface, no anything. She would sing ideas into the microphone on the laptop, and literally to track guitars and stuff, she would put the laptop on a chair in front of her little Vox amp and just record the guitar amp into her laptop microphone. It was crazy. So she would send me these like demos and things that she'd done singing like that and stuff. And it would be like 6-minute or 7-minute songs that meandered and kind of were like, didn't sound good technically, you know, like, but the ideas, like 3.5 minutes in, there'd be this vocal harmony that comes in with like 5 parts, the stack, and it would go from a chord to another chord. And you'd be like, what was that? Like, that was some Brian Wilson level shit right there. Like, really crazy. I was like, this girl is out there and like really interesting. And I heard enough of that to where I said, you got to come to LA and make a record, you know, like, and I bought her a plane ticket and flew her to LA and found some friends and said, let's just like make a record with this girl because she's amazing and we should just do that. And so we, you know, spent 3 weeks recording and stuff. And then that's the first record. But she's so far beyond that now that it's crazy. So anyway, Old War, New War is beautiful, beautiful track. And she was nice enough to let me take a solo on it. Yeah. Travis says I had my guitar hanging too low in that video. Please exercise proper posture. I'm doing that right now. I'm sitting with my back extremely, whatever. Super creative lightning rod. Yeah, totally. She writes like every day. It's just like ideas. It's crazy. So, yeah. Well, what else we got here? Somebody up there in the super duper chat. Have you messed with blending a big amp and a small combo live? A little bit. That's from Cody. A little bit. I've got friends that I've seen do things where, like Brian Ray, for instance, does a thing where he'll use his main amp, like usually like, his BTR 23 divided by 13 or something similar, sometimes maybe a Marshall. But then he would have a little combo and he would switch it in for solos, like a crank tweed kind of thing. And it would go on top of the other amp, and there's nothing like even a little 5 or 10 watt amp. If you switch that in cranked with your other amp, it really, all of a sudden you get like, there's 5 dB more, 6 dB more coming out of the guitar. Plus that blended sound. Jeff Beck does that too. So I haven't done a hell of a lot of that, but I have done open back and closed back cabs at the same time. And I really like that. And it's a similar thing. I used to run a Top Hat King Royale, so like an AC30, but I would run it into a 412 with V30s. And then I would also run the internal speakers in the amp. So I would run 6 speakers off the amp and mic them both, the closed and the open. So I like stuff like that. You're mixing closed and open back cabinets. I played through Mike Campbell's rig once, and it was not a big amp and small combos, but a couple small combos, a Princeton reverb and a tweed of some sort, maybe a tweed deluxe. That was a great sound. Really good. Just this week on this thing I was doing this week, I used 2 PT15s in stereo, and I don't know how I'll ever go back to mono. It sounds so good. And I had to keep the masters on like 3 for what I was doing, the Global Master, because it's just too loud otherwise. It's amazing how much power, 15 watt amps, but they've got so much punch and headroom and stuff that they were perfect on about 3 on the masters, and plenty loud enough to play with drums and all that. So yeah. Do any of those Marshall pedals capture the wildcat yowl that your amp setup does so well? Well, a lot of them will get you close, I mean, I got to say, like all these new ones, this Room 40 here, this 1987 pedal, they sound great. The Friedman small box, the Carl Martin Plexitones, the Panama from Carl Martin, great sounding pedals, I could gig with them and do, I really love the organic amp, like very little between the guitar and the amp for that particular thing that you're talking about, and just getting the distortion out of the amp. But there's this, for a while I used a JHS Sweet Tea with Melissa Etheridge into a Badger. I did a run where we did some gigs and I used that, and that's a Governor style distortion on the ampy side. And yeah, so anyways, Matthew Kennedy up there in the super chat. I'm gonna miss this one if I don't do it. Matthew says, I'm at that unfortunate time where I need to sell some of my guitars and amps. I need the money. I'm sorry to hear that. Have you been there? And what do you choose, what to keep and what to sell? I haven't quite been there, but there's been times when times have been lean and I've had gear, and then I've said to myself, like, okay, I should sell these and get what I need that's more useful for my current gigging situation. And unfortunately, I must say I've always regretted that. Like, that was when I sold my 54 Les Paul I bought a PRS McCartney with the money. And then there was also right around the same time I sold a 59 J50 Gibson, and I bought a Taylor that had a good pickup in it. I really needed it because I was starting to do television, and my gigging was starting to pick up. And I needed a guitar with a good pickup in it to play on tour and on TV and stuff for these touring gigs and, artists that I was playing with. And my J50 didn't have a pickup. And well, I could have just put one in it, I guess, but I wasn't going to go get on a plane and fly that J50 around. So it was like, I've got this acoustic. It's kind of expensive, kind of rare. I really need a gigging acoustic with a pickup. So I'll just sell this and then I can get another one down the road. Well, that was dumb. I shouldn't have. So I would say I guess my advice to you is that if you can at all avoid, if you've got a guitar that's got a lot of sentimental value or it's vintage, and you're like, I really don't want to sell it, but I could use the money. If you got other things you can sell first that you can easily rebuy, like amps that are modern or modern guitars, do that and keep the kind of the ones that mean a lot to you. If you can, if you can't, you can't, you know, it just depends on the position that you're in. But, you know, it's interesting. Arthur says, it's interesting. Arthur says, my Seagull is my gigging acoustic. It looks like it. I had a Seagull then, and it was okay, but this is a long time ago. That guitar was, it wasn't as good as the Taylor, you know, so I felt like I needed to move up beyond the Seagull as far as the pickup goes. So I got the Taylor, and it did sound better. But some Seagulls, and some, not knocking your guitar, you know, they make great guitars up there now. And this was in the 90s, so it was ages ago. But anyways, yeah, Matthew says great advice. Yeah, you got to do the stuff that, you know, if you got things that you can get rid of and then you can just buy down the road, a modern amp, you know, like whatever, just don't you know, just don't sell things that you can't easily get again, you know what I mean? It's like, 'cause you're not going to be happy about that down the road. So let's see. When you use your two PT15s in stereo, did you use the preamp section one and slave the other? Yeah, essentially, that's right. I did the like the effects loops, and my pedal board set up for that, where, you know, you can send out to sorry, so one PT15, you know, I'll go into my pedal board, and then I'll take the switcher out with all my pedals in front, most of my pedals, not the stuff in the post path, but the drives and compressor and stuff, go into the front end of the amp. Then I take the effects send out of the first PT15 back into my board, and it goes through my two H9s and my DD500. It splits into stereo through all those pedals. And then I take the left and right out back into the return of the main amp, and then into the return of the second amp. That's how you do that. Yeah. That's how that's done. Oh, wow. You say your Seagull came loaded with an LR bags, and that was the entire set. Yeah, man. Well, those are my favorite pickups. So with one of those, you know, with that system, they're the greatest. They're the greatest. LR bags. I love those pickups, and the preamps. They've been at it forever too, since like the 70s. It's funny. Washburn at one point made me a guitar, an acoustic, that I used on the road with Chris Cornell. And actually, Chris used it for a while. I still have that guitar because he really liked the way it sounded, and I lent it to him. He didn't have an acoustic that he was really loving at that point on the road for his acoustic set, so he played my guitar for a while. I have that guitar in the other room, I think. But it developed an issue with the neck, actually, where it's got a bow, a right, you know, bow in the neck, and then a high point where the neck joins the body, like some acoustics do, so it frets out in places. So I'd have to get it looked at to use it again, but it did sound really good. It came out of the Washburn US custom shop. And anyway, long story short, it had this bags preamp in it and pickup system that evidently was James Taylor's favorite for a long time. That guy, James Taylor, knows tone. Anyway, acoustic tone, that's for sure. But it was old school, where it had an on and off switch that you had to like turn off or it would drain the battery. But the guy said, this pickup's the shit. And Chris really liked it, and I liked it too. It sounded rad. It was really good sounding. So yeah. I hate playing acoustic, to be honest, says John. Look at those stripes in your avatar there. Makes sense. What else we got here? What else we got here? Let's see. Lighting in your studio looks great. Thanks. Yeah, I figured out that I can change the different ones to different, you know, the colors. Kind of fun. Kind of fun. All right, what else we got here? You can always buy the gear again when you're in a better position financially. Yeah, I mean, there's no problem doing, you know, selling stuff, especially if it's easy to get again. If you can rebuy it, then what's the big deal, you know? But if it's like my 54 Les Paul, I was never going to get that back, you know? I really wish I hadn't sold it. So what are you going to do, you What's the best lefty guitar for around 1500 or less? That's a great question. I mean, I'm sure there's got to be a ton out there. But well, I mean, the best, it's more like what kind of guitar. Do you want a Fender? Do you want a Les Paul? Do you want a, do you want a Sir? Sir makes left-handed guitars too. Just depends. What else have we got? Phil X runs a large cabinet. So, oh yeah, Phil does do that sometimes. You're right. He ran that little, what do you call that thing? Like the Bad Robot or something. That's cool. His little amp. And run big amp, small amp at the same time. It's a cool sound. It gives you this aggressive mid-range full mid thing that you can't get out of a closed back. Closed back does the punch, and then the kind of mid-range out of the combo can be really cool. It's pretty neat. So, and Todd Roy says Richard Fortas does that. I've seen a lot of people do it. I mean, Peter Stroud used to do it with Sheryl Crow. That guy had an amazing guitar rig on the road when I was on the same tour as them, and he would sometimes switch 2 and 3 amps in at once. Other folks did that too. I think Craig from Lenny Kravitz band would do that. Multi-amp rigs where you get multiple cabinets going to, and you can switch on and off different things. Pretty cool. Definitely. All right. Any experience with Firebird pickups versus mini humbuckers? I see a lot of people saying similar things about the feel of these two pickup types. I don't know too much about mini humbuckers. I had a Firebird once, and I did not bond with that guitar at all, so I got rid of it, and that's how I got my black Les Paul Custom that I still have to this day and use a lot. The mini humbucker, just something I never really... I know some people think they're cool and stuff, but I don't know. I just... what was a great guitar sound recorded with mini humbuckers? Like an epic, classic thing. I can't think of any, There might have been, I'm sure Pete Townsend did some stuff in the 70s, but I always think of Pete as, the P90 period. The P90 period as being, Live at Leeds or whatever. Those are the tones that I'm most interested in as far as his tones go, not necessarily his parts or the songs, but I don't know. So what was great stuff done with mini humbuckers? Les Paul Deluxe, or I guess, Firebird, Johnny Winter. I can't think of anything else though, honestly. Looking back through the chat here, see if we got any other fun stuff. You guys are saying some nice things about Phil X. Phil is a good guy. He's my buddy. He rocks. He definitely rocks. Did I miss anything? How does a super distortion work? How does it make distortion? It's not that it makes distortion. It's just that it's kind of on the hot side. So it would push the front end of the amp into distortion, The idea was driving your rig harder so that your amp got pushed into more of a natural grind, which, if you turned up an old Marshall back in the day, they all did. But like if we take my 335, for example, it's got one PAF in it and one patent number pickup. And by then, even, in the early 60s, those pickups were pretty weak. And then moving into the late 60s, early 70s, T-tops and, patent number pickups and T-tops are pretty weak. They're almost like hot single coil as far as the strength goes, So sure, your Marshalls and stuff would, overdrive a bit if you turn them way up. But there was this hankering for more distortion, and I guess I already had this idea that if I just push the amp harder, we're going to get there. And it was a good idea, It's a different sound. Didn't sound like PAF-y at all or anything, but it had this big, broad fat. Using a ceramic, a couple of the things about a super distortion that are unique. One, it's very quiet. Like the humbucking capabilities are extreme in that, like really good. And part of the reason is the matched metal in each coil. I've learned that recently. Like, in other words, the same pole pieces, right? You got those hex pole pieces. and same number of turns and all that. So the coils are really identical, and that really, when you got two identical coils, that cancels the hum. Now, the sound of it, I mean, is, you know, a lot of things. I mean, it's the line, the type of wire, the magnets, those hex pole pieces, all those things contribute. So it's interesting, but the distortion was just really purely a matter of, you know, 13K kind of hot ceramic magnet, and it would hit the front of an amp way harder than, we don't think of that some people might think of that as a medium output pickup now, but back in the day you couldn't get anything that was that hot that would nail the front end of an amp that hard. Like I say, like T-top, if you bought a replacement humbucker from Gibson or something, they were like sub 8K, you know, I think. So not a hot pickup. So it was a radically different than that. The guitar effect is up there in the super chat. And just saying, hey, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'm a hard rock guy, but I bought a Gretsch. Can we still be friends? Of course. I love Gretsch. I'd love to have a nice Gretsch someday. I'd really, I think, like a Brian Setzer signature, because they've got the pinned bridge and they kind of rock hard, actually. They're for the, you know, they got the hotter TV Jones pickups and stuff. And TV Jones, I think, right? And Brian's, pretty sure. Yeah, I think. I really enjoyed the RJM Overture demo. Thank you. I really like the multi-modo D pedals, especially analog ones like that. Never understand why they're not more popular. Yeah, I guess people, you know, there's a certain group of people that like programmability and want to be able to do a lot of things with one pedal on a board because they can make it smaller and all those things that come out of combining multiple effects into one pedal. And then other people like the big boards or medium-sized boards with individual pedals doing different stuff, you know. So it just depends. Yeah. It depends on what kind of person you are. I think there's still a lot to be said for, you know, because otherwise people would have just gone to the Helix a long time ago or something, everybody, which is a great option for some folks, but some people like the idea of having individual pedals. You know, there's these nice, you know, Axe FXs and Helixes and stuff that you can use 4-cable method and do everything in one box, you know, but people like, I want to get my Archer, or I want to get my, you know, whatever, my Screamer clone, or that's boutique, and I really like that one pedal for that one thing, you know. So love the Sir Reactive Load IR for recording. Other than that, take 5-spot and buy some gum or coffee. Thanks, Leroy. I appreciate that. Thanks, man. Danny says, thanks for all the info and the great Sunday chats. Thanks. Hey, like I always say every week, I really enjoy doing this. And it's something to look forward to every week, and it keeps me somewhat sane. So thanks for being here, you guys, and thanks for doing the super chats, both of you. Appreciate that. And all of you. And just for being here. That's interesting. Lukather used a Les Paul Deluxe with mini hums on early session and Toto stuff. I didn't know that. That's interesting. I'll have to ask him about that sometime. What's the significance of arch topping pickup poles? Do you mean like on single coils where they have that bevel on the side? I don't actually know. That's a good question. That is above my pay grade. John says, so with Pastina Black 14K in my Ash guitar and Pastina White 9K in my Mahogany guitar, will they match up output-wise, or will I have to mess with the amp volume? You play with quite a bit of distortion anyway, right? So I don't think it's a matter of matching volume. Just one will have a little more nuts and mid-range pushing into the amplifier, you know. But if your amp's already distorted, I don't think you got to worry about a volume difference, really. Just one's going to be a little bit cleaner, you know. So, Guitard, thank you, sir. $6.99. Appreciate that. Thank you. Fun Hang, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. You guys are talking about different players using Gretsches now and how cool Gretsches are. Mainly using Gretsch Richard Fortus. Yeah, and that's the contrast with Slash, you know. In that band, it really works. It's sort of part of the original sound with Izzy and stuff of playing more like a semi-hollow. And, yeah. Have you seen the new Boss guitar? I did see it briefly the other day. I didn't look at any of the feature or anything, but it seems kind of cool. Synth sounds as well built into the axe. I like the idea of having that. I mean, I love different tones and synths. I was mentioning earlier today in a guitar or in a thread on the gear page about Paul David's review of that MIDI guitar that is made in Ireland somewhere. He did such a beautiful video if you haven't seen that thing, and it's a really cool MIDI guitar. And I love that idea of being able to play you know, like different sounds and, you know, trigger synth sounds and stuff like that in my, like in Logic and stuff. It's pretty cool. So get Omnisphere or something and make different, it would lend a lot to my recording and stuff, I think. So it's fun doing that stuff. The only MIDI synth guitars I really messed with was the triple play system, which I did a video of, and you can see kind of what I'm talking about in that video, how I built a track using all these different synth sounds. And I had a good time doing that for sure. Yeah, thank you guys for doing the super chats. Appreciate that. It's one of your best memories playing with Chris Cornell. There's so many, it's hard to pick one. The one that comes to mind right now is the last show that I did with him in 2016. Got back, and I had this feeling like when I played with him that time, because it was challenging. He liked to challenge, and he liked to try different things and stuff. But that meant sometimes, like he said, "Can you do this thing?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And it was a gig at the Roxy in LA, here, a private thing. But it was packed. It was really fun. I remember we put together a great band for it, and we did 2 rehearsals. But anyways, at the beginning, he sent me a bunch of songs to do, and it was a lot of songs I'd never played with him. It was a lot of stuff off of Higher Truth. I think it was probably one of the only times that he ever did any of that Higher Truth material with a full band. Certainly, I think kind of the only gig where he did it with a full band and played a bunch of those songs. You know, Murder of Blue Skies and like all these different songs that we did. That was so cool. And so it was work to learn all these songs. First of all, there's a lot of finger picking going on, open tunings as always. And it was challenging. I had to practice, you know, to get up to you know, the level where I was going to be able to do it. But I practiced hard and I got there, and, you know, and then the band was great. And I just remember him being really happy on stage that night, you know, and looking around. I remember getting through one tune and it was really cool. And I remember him looking around, and this was like him. He would be like this. And of course, this wasn't true, but he'd say, "I'm the worst musician on this stage." And he would be very selfless like that, you know. That's not true, but he was happy. And that was my job, was to, you know, and also the thing was I had this clear recognition that I really wanted to play with him again. I really wanted to go out and tour again at some point and do more gigs. And he didn't really have to do that, because he was then, you know, Songbook tour, then Higher Truth tour and stuff, where he would go out and play with, I think it's Ben, the cellist, that he would play with. He could tour with just himself or maybe one other person and do tours, and he would sell out Royal Albert Hall, you know, and he could play places. He didn't need a band to go on solo tours anymore. He could do it on his own, which of course, you know, just from a financial perspective, that was great for him, because it was like, you know, it's one of the reasons why I find it's so sad that he's gone, because it's like he had just done, when he passed away, a reunion with one gig, you know, with Audioslave in Hollywood. He had his solo thing built to the level where he could play great big theaters and do that tour like that. He was working on Soundgarden stuff. It was like, dude, you've got it all. He just did the Temple of the Dog tour. It was like, you have like 3 bands that you can viably go and play with, and then your whole solo thing. Like, the world is wide open right now. So it's just sad, but, you know, I mean, it's beyond sad. That's the understatement of the year. But anyways, my memory of that gig that night was him being really, my point in saying all that was, it's like the only way he's ever going to go out solo with a band again is that if we can make this so fun that he just wants to do it, you know, because it's like, you can't do the same things when you play solo or with one other person that you can do with a 4 or 5 piece band. You just can't. So I wanted to make it like so satisfying for him that night that he would just want to do it. And at the end of the night, he did say, "We got to do this again in some form or another at some point." Like, and I was like, mission accomplished, you know. But we had a great gig that night. There's very little video. There's one video I found on the internet of that show, but man, we had fun. So that was a great memory, playing that show. And I'll tell you what, I think it was right after Say Hello to Heaven. I remember playing that song with them, and I remember playing it and playing the guitar solo and stuff, and then at the end finishing the tune out and just being like, I did this one more time with this guy. It was so great because I loved playing that song, and that music was kind of my, as far as working as a sideman, it was the most closest to home that I've ever, felt working with anybody, where it was like, this is totally my jam right now. Like, this is what I love playing, like this music. So it was so great. So I remember playing that song with him, and then afterwards finishing, and he used to look at me and he'd smile, and I'd be like, man. And I remember having this feeling that, like, I'm better at this now. I'm better at this than when we did it before, like back in 2007 to 2010 when we did all the touring and stuff. Here we were 2016. I'd done so much work between 2010 and 2016, and Don Henley's gig and Melissa Etheridge's gig and Milan Farmer's gig, and I toured so much and done so much. I was so much more experienced at that point, and I just had this feeling like I'm better at this. And if we go do this again, it's going to be great because I'm so ready now. Like, I was ready before, but it was like I want to do this again because it'll be on another level, just from a personal satisfaction perspective. I'm not saying I'm great or something. I was saying I'm more prepared. Like, I feel like I can go places that I couldn't go back then, even just on a personal musical level. So that was a great feeling. It was a great memory, and it was nice to just, I have to take away that was a nice memory, and that at least I felt that one last time I got to play those. It was a nice, kind of button on the whole period, on the whole thing, I guess. Anyways, slap hand. Thanks for a great show. Do you tweak the studs when setting pickup height on humbuckers? You mean like the screw coil? Is that what you mean? Tweak the screws themselves? Sometimes, but not really. I noticed sometimes Eddie Van Halen used to do that. He would raise, they would be this raised thing. It was interesting. And I'm like, I don't know how much difference that makes. John Suhr told me once about what that does. And it wasn't a favorable thing. I don't think he believed in raising the screws out of the pickup in a way that, I can't remember what he said. I'll have to ask him again. Try and remember to ask him that, and maybe I can relate his answer on a later show. Ben Tom says you can have the world at your feet, but mental health can ruin it in a minute, and that kind of sews it up right there. I can't say it any better than that, man. Our mental health is really important. Us and our families and our friends. You got to take care of yourself, but there's only so much you can do, because there's also people that, it's like you don't know what's going on in anybody's head 100% at any time. They only let you in so far. So that's just how it is. We're all like a little bit of a, right, to different degrees and stuff. So, yeah. In 2009, you played Long Gone on Letterman. Yeah, sounded great. Everything of rocking. God, that was a night. Let me hear that story. We had played the Wiltern the night before in LA, which was a really fun show. I remember that. I remember meeting Brad Pitt that night. He came out, and I remember just being a great crowd. I remember playing Day I Tried to Live and a lot of really fun songs that night. And then we had to leave the venue and go straight to Van Nuys Airport. So we didn't really get to hang that long or anything afterwards. And go straight to Van Nuys Airport and get on a plane to fly to be at sound check at Letterman the next morning in New York. And of course, you lose 3 hours. So by the time we got out of there, it was midnight or 11:30 or something. So by then it's 3 a.m. New York time, right? You're seeing what I'm saying. We literally drove to Van Nuys Airport, got on a private little jet. And I remember it was small, and I remember it was cold. People think private jets, oh great. This was tight, and I remember it was fast as hell. Like, I think we got to New York in like 4.5 hours or something. But I remember falling asleep on the plane in my tight little chair, and then waking up and being like, God, it's like 50 degrees in here or something on like really cold on the plane, just like, God, freezing. Like, anyways, so we got there, and by the time we got there, I think the sun was already coming up, and literally just like, slept 3.5 hours on a seat, like, and went from probably LaGuardia or wherever maybe we dropped bags at the hotel and then had to go right back in the van and go straight to. I don't think maybe we got a little like an hour or two of sleep. I can't remember in a hotel, but then we had to go straight to sound check. We were there by 11 a.m. at the Ed Sullivan Theater in New York, and then did sound check, and then did Long Gone by about 4 or 5. It was all over. You know, they tape it in the afternoon. I thought it was a good performance. I realized now, all these years later, that it was an alternate tuning, and that it would have been a hell of a lot easier to play had I figured out that tuning, because the electric part was weird, and I believe it was Phil X that actually played it, because it was a Howard Benson thing. That it was kind of a reboot of that tune. It was the version of Long Gone that was on Scream wasn't that version. It was Howard Benson did like a rock, you know, remix or re-recording of that song, different version. And I think Phil was the guitar player on it. Yeah, Phil was like Howard's go-to guy in the studio back then. So anyway, there's that. But it was a little bit of a, I don't remember it being like, I remember that show being really fun. I don't remember the going to Letterman and playing thing being fun, because I just remember it being like, you know, a jet lag, or not jet lag, but, you know, fatigue extravaganza, and then just kind of a little nerve-wracking. But yeah, I love Brad Pitt so much. Seven is one of my all-time favorite movies. He was really nice. I mean, that's the only time I ever met him, but he came walking up to me backstage. He goes, "Hey man, that was great." Like the gig. He was really nice. Cool guy. Yeah, struck me as just kind of like a normal dude. But he was a big fan of Chris. I know that, and big fan. And they were quite tight. Yeah. I haven't been able to work for 2 months due to anxiety. It was hard to even leave the house, walk the dog. It sucks, and it's hard to get help. Sorry, man. Sorry to hear that. Wish I had some good advice. It's a difficult thing, you know, struggling with. I saw a great like Instagram thing the other day about some, you know, social anxiety, and it was like people. This is what people with social anxiety are like at parties. And it was a guy, and he was going in, you know, it was like filming, it was staging or whatever, but he was going into the bathroom, and he walked into the bathroom, and he's like smiling and laughing. You can hear all this noise outside, like people at a party. He's like, and he closes the door, and he goes, and he stares in the mirror and goes like, then he turns around and goes, and he opens up the door and goes, "Hey," you know, and walks back out. And I think that's what a lot of people are dealing with, you know, one of those things where it's just like, you know, you put on your best face, you get out there, but it's tough. I mean, to be honest, like with the, you know, pandemic times and stuff like that, it's a little tough. People are a little crazy right now, man. I heard a thing the other day about, it was like a news story about a restaurant somewhere. I can't remember where it was, but it said that they had to give the whole, it was a kind of farm to table kind of place, somewhere, maybe Northern California or something. And it said they had to give the whole staff like a few days off work, because the customers were coming in and being so rude and mean to people that everybody was like, the staff was just like, you know, people getting yelled at, and like, it's just like, God, what is going on? Like, just be nice to people. I guess it's a little bit of everybody's frustrated, and, you know, everybody's been cooped up and all that stuff. And it's a little like you get back out there in the world, and there's a lot of frustration and anger and stuff like that. And it's just, I guess there's some human nature stuff, but geez, you know, it is anxiety provoking out there. And I notice when I go out now, I find if I'm in certain establishments, bars or whatever, it's loud, man. There's a lot of people get a few drinks in them, and it was always this way. But I do notice, like, God, do you really have to yell at one another? Like, people just yelling at one another straight across the table, really loud, like, you know, and just like, get up and move over here and get away from these loud MFers, you know. Just like, God, man, if we all forgot our like manners and, you know, just that kind of stuff, it's crazy, you know. Buy GameStop and AMC, says JJ Music up there in the super chat. Thank you for doing the super chat. I don't know about any of that, but my wife is a basket case before social events like company Christmas parties. Yeah, it's common. I mean, you know, it's common. Lauren says anxiety often comes from a fear of losing something we love, maybe not a physical thing. It can be good to start with identifying those things and realizing they're actually safe. Some deep thoughts, my friend. as always. And yeah, I mean, anything you can do to get to the root, I agree. It's great, you know, of why you're feeling things, and then it can give you, oh, okay, so now if I know what's causing that, I can take some steps to feel better. It's, you know, more compassion. It's a good thing overall, right? For people that are going through things. Not everybody sees this. You can't make anybody feel a certain way and just say, well, just don't feel that way, or what's the matter with you, or you're wuss, or are you, it's like, no, it's not like that. It's like a storm of chemicals in someone's head. And it can happen to all of us, you know, like at different times in life, things come and go, and we go through these struggles, right? And it's like a little compassion for that. Not everybody feels the same way you do. They don't know how to feel any different. They would like to feel different if they could. They don't like feeling like that. And it doesn't mean they're weak, and it doesn't mean whatever. It just means that sometimes you don't have control over those things. So it's like, and it takes work to get control over them and how to feel different. So, you know, Tom Lynn says air travel too. Crazy. Yeah. I mean, the stories I hear about that, and from the abuse and the, you know, it's like, God, man, everybody's in this boat together, and we're all stuck in a cigar tube going 500 miles an hour up in the sky. Like, everybody just, you know, chill, you know? Yeah. Todd says he's got anxiety and depression. Oh, life's been hard now. I have chronic pain. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Yeah. It's a, I was watching Rocky the other day. You know, it was a Rocky Balboa, the one that came out in 2006, you know. There's always a message in Rocky movies, and I always like that, you know. It's usually a simple message, but it's a good message. And then when he's talking to his son, he says, you know, it's about how many times you can get hit and then get back up and keep going. You know, and that's life, man. It is like that. Like, once we accept that, it's like that book, The Road Less Traveled. Life is hard, and once we accept that it's hard, it's going to be hard. It is hard, then it becomes less hard, because now you've sort of accepting the reality, right? And I like that, the concept of it's about getting hit and how you can get back up, you know, and how that's what it is. And it's like, it's akin to actually I remember I've had a great therapist over the years that I haven't seen him for a long, long time, but he was like an awesome dude that helped me through some really important times in my life, like death of my parents and things like that, when I really needed to talk to someone. And he's a brilliant guy. But one of the things that he said to me was, these things are going to happen. Your car is going to break down. There's going to be problems, you know, medical problems. You know, you're going to be faced with these things, and then it's all about how you deal with them. It's not about that, you know, avoiding those things or not. You know, like, they're going to happen. Shit's going to happen, and then it's about how you deal with those things. So once again, it's like the Rocky thing, like how many times you can get hit, and it's about how you get back up and how much you can take and then get back up and keep going. You know, and it's so important. So, anyways. And that it means different things for different people, you know, how those coping mechanisms to get through, and just try and have as good a day as you can, you know, and get one day at a time. Joseph says, thanks for using your platform to recognize mental health is a real struggle for a lot of people. No shame in asking for help. Absolutely no shame in asking for help. You know, you're not given an instruction manual for life, and your parents aren't psychologists, most likely. Some of them are, I guess, but, you know, and they just do the best they can most of the time, and which is like, let's just be honest, severely lacking often, you know. And you look back on it when you're in your 20s and your 30s and your 40s, and you go, wow, like, I thought I had a pretty normal upbringing, but then I realized this was messed up, and this was messed up, and this was messed up. That happens to us all, right? And it's like, it's hard work, you know, to figure out how to get to the bottom of all that stuff and then get through it, you know. It's tough. It is. There's no way around that. It's true. Jay says, oh, Jay's just up there in the super chat. Thanks, man. I appreciate that, you guys. I do. John, back to some guitar. I appreciate you guys sharing all this stuff, by the way. It's like, you know, it's not easy to even talk about it even in a forum like this. So, you know, but it's good. It's good to, you know, we're all friends here. So John says, I've been a longtime fractal user, which has always been the biggest problem solver for me. And I still feel that way, but there's a magic to pedals. for sure. I got a little 65 Princeton and been buying pedals since. The nice thing about something like the little Princeton is the simplicity of just that one sound. You turn it on. They're kind of a one-trick pony. You know, you probably don't move the controls around a lot, do you? You probably found your sound, maybe a little more volume, a little less, but it's like, or with a different guitar, maybe you tweak the treble, but you turn it on and it's a guitar sound, you know, and then you can add your pedals and tweak to taste, and it's really nice, you know. So it's a good thing for it's nice you live in both those worlds, John, where you appreciate the fractal and stuff, but also the simplicity of just doing the other thing. Oh, somebody was asking about the train wreck here. So that is, I forgot to get to that. So there's a question somebody had earlier about that amp, and I didn't mean to avoid it because it's a really cool amp. And it's kind of in keeping with that. It's like you plug in and you play. I mean, I put up a little clip of it on Instagram yesterday if you want to hear it. But I'm doing an Amps in the Zone video with it, so you'll get the full effect. But I recorded a track with it last night, and I just got to put some lead guitar on it. Amazing sounding amplifier, and it's so simple and pure. It's a Liverpool, this one, so 4EL84. They're a very unique amp. The touch sensitivity thing, the harmonics, there's a lot of kind of interplay between the guitar and the amp that happens, and even without a lot of gain, you get feedback and sustain, and it's beautiful, you know. Very dynamic with the volume control on the guitar, very responsive to pickups and all that stuff. And it's a legendary amp. You know, there's only about 60 of them, so it's a hell of a lot of fun. So that's the train wreck. You know, Ken Fisher. I'll tell the whole story in the video. So, what can you tell us about the Sir Party with Ian? Did you enjoy it? Would you play with Ian or Big Wreck if the opportunity arose? Absolutely, I would love to play with Ian. I had an amazing time doing that. He blew my mind. I mean, I think I've talked about it before. As far as, you know, the experience of doing it and stuff, but Ian, you know, won't go too far into it, but he, you know, we put the band together. He didn't know any of us. He came down. We only had that afternoon to kind of rehearse the tunes. I'd done one rehearsal with the other guys, John Button and Blair Cinta, the night before, just to go over the songs, but we just played it through with Ian, and then we did the gig, and that was it. And it was awesome. It was a stressful night because I did my own set too, and I don't do a hell of a lot of that, like playing my own music live. So you can see the videos of me doing, you know, Groomed Noodler and, you know, Monster Movie and those songs and stuff like that night. So I had to do a set of those, and then I had to play with Ian too. So I was working that night, but it was cool, man. I mean, it was great to get my own stuff out of the way because actually it went really well, and I had a really good time playing my own stuff. But it is stressful to do, you know, it's your solo gig, solo guitar. There's ain't no singer. You're the singer. You're at the front of the stage, and everybody's got a camera stuck in your face because it's NAMM like this. So it was. I remember being pretty happy with myself and feeling like a sense of satisfaction after the set. You got through that because it wasn't like, you know, booking a couple club gigs outside of town to kind of get warmed up or anything like that. No, it was like full force. Everybody's got a camera out these days. You know, it's like, it would be nice sometimes to do gigs like that with nobody filming it and not sticking it on Instagram and everything else. And so guys like Robin Ford and stuff, they hate like that because it's hard to play when somebody's like, you know, not saying if anybody was there that night and doing that, it's fine. I expect it these days. It's part of the world that we live in, but it was like, that was, you know, there was a little stress. Like I can't suck right now. And so luckily I didn't. It was good. I felt really good about the performance. And then I got to relax and just kind of play behind Ian. So that part was easy actually in comparison. And it was so nice to just settle into a groove and play, you know, Blown Wide Open and that song, stuff like that. It was so fun. Control. So yeah, I'd love to play with him sometime. Really, really fun. What else we got here? What else have we got here? It's great comments here about everything we were talking about. The mental health is layers. Each has to be dealt with in bits. Never easy. Some layers are thicker than others, or glued on some crazy stuff. It's a good way to put it. I like that. That's true. Yeah. And yeah. This is interesting, John. I think a lot of people feel like this, John. Suffered from anxiety most of my adult life, but walking on stage in front of people, no problem. If I'm in the crowd, I'll take a pass if I can. The thought of NAMM or an arena concert, probably you're saying, freaks you out. I'm like that with crowds sometimes too. I don't necessarily want to. Sometimes I want to be out there. Actually, I do enjoy like still. I don't enjoy the. Maybe that's just because I'm bougie or whatever. But I like having the VIP thing where I can go backstage, have some lounge I can go into with some food, easy drinks and stuff. I like that. But I like going out and hanging out in the crowd. But it does get a little much sometimes where I'm like, okay, this is a little too packed in for me. Maybe it's just my age. You know, we get older. I think those festivals are many times it's like kind of a young person's game. But being on stage, I do recognize that having said what I just said about doing my own show, that's like a different kind of thing. But like playing with somebody like Chris or something, I love that feeling of like walking on stage and walking out of the, like your rig, hit a chord, yep, sounding good. And then you go to the front of the stage and just go like, let's do this. Let's have a party for the next 90 minutes or whatever, you know? And that's a very comfortable place for me to be. That's like when I feel like, yeah, I'm in my zone, you know, this is what I do. Victor Eduardo Lopez says, should I buy a Sir Reactive Load or aux? I only own a Marshall Studio Vintage. It depends on what you want, man. If you want a great mic'd up sound, vintage 30s greenbacks or whatever, you can do your effects in the DAW. And you want it to be simple, like plug and play, like plug in and 10 minutes later, you got a great sound. And it's like, this is all I need. This sounds like a great mic'd up cabinet. You're going to be fine with the Sir Reactive Load. It's a terrific device for that. If you want to get into more effects, blending in room mics, trying different cabinets, tons of different cabinets, delay, you want to have delay in the mix. How about a nice plate reverb? How about 1176 compressor? How about EQing the whole thing, but not in your DAW, inside the load? Then you want the aux. So the one is way simpler and great, and the other one is way more bells and whistles and great. So you can get great tones with either. Yeah. That's interesting. Hugo's Tacos shut down for a few weeks during 2020 because some of the customers were so mean to the staff. Yeah, I think people. I worked in retail for a minute. Who else out there has worked in retail? You ever work in a store or in a? I worked in music stores for a long time, and I do recognize that I think sometimes people take out their frustrations on vulnerable folks that are have to kind of suck it up and take it many times, and that can be people in the service industry or all kind of on the front lines, working retail in a store, people that, restaurant staff, they're easy targets because if you're a bully or whatever, or you're pissed off and you just want to burn off some steam, it's lowest common denominator, simplest thing is to get pissed off about your taco or whatever because you didn't get the right kind of hot sauce. I want it red, not green. And you yell at them or whatever, and it's shitty. And it's like it's a good measure of people, I always find, like an indicator of how people treat folks working in restaurants. Like if you're just let's say getting a new band or whatever, and you go on for dinner, first couple weeks on the road or, whatever, during rehearsals, and you're out with people and somebody does that to one of the staff in a restaurant, watching out for that guy, because that's the when people can do things like that and not necessarily face repercussions, they can yell at somebody or be rude or say some off-color stuff or whatever just because they can, and they know the other person's working there and the customer's always right and that stuff. That's a major red flag for me, so when I see people not treat other people with respect. So yes, people are overrated, says Todd Roy. I really like animals a lot these days. I do, but all you guys are okay. Yeah. I work in retail maintenance. Tax on retail staff has increased during the pandemic, big time. I mean, we just look at the tax on folks that work on airplanes, the staff, and that's gone up exponentially and stuff. So it's definitely a real thing. So what do we do about it is the question. Yeah. Leroy. Yeah. I work at a Radio Shack franchise store. Yeah, it's true, man. I worked in little music shops, and I can remember that certain people come in and just be, just be unpleasant for sure. Yeah, I love hearing when somebody orders a $9.99 meal and leaves a $5,000 tip. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I worked at a call center for a decade. Hell, it sucked. Yeah, you know, those are easy people to take stuff out on too. It's always good. I try and like, because sometimes I'm really pissed off. Let's say with Spectrum cable or something, I'm really pissed off, and I'll phone and be mad. But I always try and say, you know, I'm not mad at you. You know, this isn't personal, but I'm just really angry about this situation. So know that I'm not attacking you. You know, but like, what the hell with the fact that my Wi-Fi and I pay you guys, and then I have to pay you still, but you're not holding up your end of the bargain. That's not fair. You know, but I always preface it with like, this isn't a personal thing. This is business between me and the company, and it's just got to get filtered through you. You know, I try and do that because it's really, you know, I remember the one time going to, it was a funny Chris Cornell story. I remember going to start a tour in Europe, and we flew through Heathrow Airport, and like, you know, had a plane change there. And then we went on to Belgium, probably Brussels, I guess, landed in Belgium. And we started with a big festival outside Belgium, outside of Brussels, that tour. And I had a brand new pedal board. It was literally like $5,000, you know, to build this whole board and stuff like that. And luckily I still had my B board or my, you know, what had been my main board before. It was out on the road too. This one was just a backup. Oh, sorry. The new one was going to be my main one. And then the old one was going to become my backup. So, but it was out still with the gear and everything. So we flew the board from LA. Dave Friedman had just finished it. And we flew it from LA along with my luggage and everyone else. You know, everybody came on the same flights and stuff like that. And we went through Heathrow. Well, they had this major computer malfunction at Heathrow Airport, and all the literally like 10,000 bags got lost that day or something before the computers came on. And it was in the news. It was huge, major disruption, you know, luggage. And I remember seeing a picture of the luggage in a warehouse. It was just a picture taken from above, being an aerial picture, and it was just this warehouse full of luggage that they had to sort through because they didn't know where anything was supposed to go. The computers malfunctioned, so they couldn't scan the tags, so all these bags got lost. Well, I got my suitcase, and I was so lucky because a bunch of people in the band, it was like 11 or 12 of us traveling, and everybody lost their bags. So you're just starting a tour, and it's very difficult because now we're starting in Belgium, but 2 days later we're going somewhere else, and then a day later we're going somewhere else. A day later, so if they find your bag, how does your bag catch up to you in that situation? It's really, really difficult. My pedal board got lost. $5,000. I'd never even used it. It was brand new. You know, I was like, oh my god. So, but I got my suitcase. I was one of like 5 of us out of 11 or something in the group that did get a bag. One thing. Some people got their second bag or whatever. And so I got my main suitcase. So I had my clothes. A bunch of people didn't get any of their stuff. And I remember a few people never got their bags back. Our drum tech never got his suitcase. You know, it just vanished into forever. And so that was a mess. My pedal board ended up showing up 3 weeks later at the bass player's house in South Pasadena. And the reason it went there was because in our group, so many people submitted claims for their lost bags that some of them got mixed up, you know, and somehow my pedal board went to his house. At least he hit me up like 2-3 weeks later. It was like, yeah, you're going to, you know, the reason I was telling you this story was because I called a guy in customer service on the phone, and I was pissed because my $5,000 pedal board was now out in the weeds, you know, and I was just like trying to hold it together on the phone, but I was like, you've got to have more information than this. Like, our whole group has lost our bags, and I didn't know yet about the, you know, the massive scale of this problem, but I just knew our whole group had lost our bags. And I was like, I've just paid for this thing. It's like $5,000. Like, you know, and I was like going off. I was like, come on, there's got to be more info. And it was this guy with a French accent on the phone. And he said, look, if I could, I would get your bag and I would swim, you know, across the English Channel with your bag myself and bring it to you. But I can't. So I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. It's probably going to take a couple weeks, and your bag is probably going to go to Italy. Because I guess that was where they had some sorting place. You know, everything was going to get on a plane, go to Italy, and then we're going to sort through it there and then send it all out. Your bag's probably going to go to Italy, and then it's going to come back to you, but it's not going to be right away. and just I started laughing, I remember, because of the guy, he was kind of amped up, and just that he was like, he obviously like really cared and actually wanted to help, and he gave me a straight answer. You know, the honesty of it. not going to happen today or tomorrow. It's probably going to be a couple weeks. You're going to get it back, but it's going to go to Italy first. There you go. Okay, I can work with that. Anyways, that's that story. I did get it back, but I ended up using the ape. You know, it's funny. Like I guess I wouldn't have flown a pedal board from the States. My other one would have still been out with the gear anyway. All the gear was in Europe, and I just flew that beat pedal board out. But I wasn't able to use it till the next tour anyway, because I didn't get it back on that run. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, what time is it? It's 1:40. I'll go another 10 minutes or so, and then I'll bail. I ain't getting on no plane, says my knees hurt. You know what's funny about that tour? Chris's album that we were touring on was called Carry On. It was his solo album that came out in 2007. So after that incident, we dubbed it was the Carry On tour anyway, but now it was like the double entendre of Carry On, like you're carrying on your bag. It's the Carry On tour. We're not, you know, if you can at all avoid it, don't check your luggage, because that was a hard lesson. Anyways, what else we got here? I don't think I'm ready to fly anywhere yet. I haven't been on a plane. I don't miss it. I want to go. I'd love to go to Japan or something, but by the same token, I really don't want to get on a plane. I would do it if it was Japan. Yeah, I would. Yeah. Okay, you guys are all telling stories about working, you know, in Media Junkie says worked in a liquor store here in Toronto, was threatened daily. I can bet that would be a tough job. Yeah. And don't mess with people that prepare your food, says Shane. That's true. I agree 100%. Never. Always be polite. Be one of those good people. Be one of those good people anyway. But for the reason to not get your food spit in, that's true. Is getting Warren Haynes on the show possible? You know, it just might be. I know Warren. I've got his phone number. I can give him a call and ask him. He's a great guy. Such a nice guy. That's a good idea. Let me think about that. Okay. Let's see here. Can you compare the train rack to a Fuchs train? I've never played a Fuchs amp. Don't have one. Don't have access to one. I would love to do a comparison. It might be a neat thing to order the Seriatone or something, and then maybe make a comparison video, because I know they make one too. Yeah, it'd be an interesting thing. Or, you know, maybe we build one. I know enough amp builders, and see if it is close or if there's some magic. What are 2, 3 effects every dirty tone needs to sound good? Well, I mean, if it's AC/DC, or, you know, you don't need any effects. Honestly, if the core dirty tone is great, many times I wouldn't use any, you know, like say playing with Chris Cornell or whatever. When I went to a dirty tone and I'm playing rhythm guitar, there's no effects. You know, it's just raw. Honestly, you know, I'd like raw. I don't think there's anything. But if you want a lead sound, then it's cool to add for my lead tones with dirty sounds, generally speaking, I use a digital delay of some sort with a bit of the high end rolled off and a bit of the low end rolled off to kind of narrow it out and make it a bit more mid-range, with, you know, 3 or 4 repeats. Time to, you know, can be an eighth note, can be a quarter note, can be stereo with an eighth and a quarter, or sometimes a 1/3 kind of thing and a quarter. So kind of dead, you know, kind of thing. Just depends. So yeah. Alex Lyson would be cool. 2 Canadians together. I've put in a few, you know, I've reached out a little bit about Alex, and I haven't heard anything. So maybe I'm talking to the wrong people, but we'll see. Any word on Kim Mitchell on the show? I'd like to talk to him about that too. I do text with him on a fairly regular basis these days when we talk amps and stuff like that, but I will remind him about the show, and just didn't want to push it. But, you know, I would like to. I'm getting Kim a PT15, so I'm getting one sent to him, and I can't wait to hear what he thinks about that. But Rick Emmett, Rick seems like a great guy. That would be cool. Yeah. Yeah. Have you had any of your headstocks broken during shipping and repaired? I've never had them broken during shipping, but I've broken them myself. I knocked over a Les Paul on stage, or sorry, in a rehearsal room once, and broke my Les Paul Custom. At a gig, my 335's headstock got broken, and I've had them both repaired, and they're both great. So occasionally it happens. Seems like more often than not, they're totally repairable. I mean, hey, look at Billy Howardell's main Les Paul from A Perfect Circle. It's got a headstock on it from another guitar. It was a Trent Reznor Les Paul that he broke on tour when Billy was his guitar tech with Nails, and he literally took another headstock from a different guitar and put it on there, and that became his main guitar in A Perfect Circle. So, you know, they're generally repairable. So, I picked up a Sur Standard Plus recently. Sick guitar. I find the bridge humbucker a bit nasally compared to my modern Plus, both with SSV Plus. Nasal. What pickup is in it? It depends. You know, you could try something radically different. Like I say, I'll just say I've been working on a great new pickup. So I'm so stoked on it, amongst some other things. But it's awesome, but not out there right now. It just depends on what you want. You know, you might want to switch to. I'm kind of an A2 fan these days in the bridge. I'm veering towards these warmer pickups, actually, because it seems to do a great thing with a really aggressive amp. Kind of been rounding out the top end, just liking the sound of the A2 magnets these days. So that might be something that you want to look into. Peter Evans says, great show today, all topics, videos this week, happy coffee. Thanks, man. It was a really fun show this week. I feel great about it. Videos this week, the train wreck. So I'm trying to get amps in the zone done for that one. That one. I was going to move my arm the opposite way. So that should be fun. Want to hear a legendary fun amp? You know, you're going to hear it. Might be fun to do a video on. I was just thinking, like on 2 amps in stereo, like my PT15 rig in stereo. I could show some of the presets that I actually made for this thing. Well, we'll see what happens, but this work thing I was doing this week. But that might be a cool thing. This got this coming. We get that done. A bunch of other pedals that I've got. There's one that's kind of a Brown Deluxe. That's an Overdrive. So some fun stuff coming for sure. And also I got to do the video on wrap-up video for the Eddie Van Halen pickup video with Dave Friedman. We talked about that because I said I was going to do that, and we got to follow through on that. I was like, let's just film this and we'll make a margarita and we'll sit out there and talk for 15 minutes and just talk about what our thoughts were on all those pickups. So that'll be coming soon too. Which Marshall and a box pedal would you recommend direct into a solid state power amp? For that purpose, no question, it would be one of the Origin Effects, probably the original Revival pedal, I think. It's got the most capability as far as shaping the tone into a solid state power amp. It's an actual preamp, so not just a pedal circuit, you know. Yeah. Is it still possible to get your signature Ultex picks? There's just a 73 Ultex. I don't know if they make them with my name on them. I don't think so, but it's literally a 73. You know. So yeah. I'd be interested in the stereo amp video. Yeah, I'd like to do that actually. It would be pretty easy for me to do because I can use the direct outputs out of the amps and stuff. And this PT15 is nice that way. For this thing I did this week, I actually did that. I had the direct outs feeding in-ears and PA and stuff like that on the amps, and then I had 2 cabs just for air in the room too. It was awesome. Any go-to settings you like on the full tone that rack chorus? I just kind of use the standard setting, to be honest. If I plug that thing in to do the kind of like there's a default, you know, switch or whatever, the preset, and that sounds really good to me. It always sounds just as good, if not better, if I do that than if I tweak it myself. So yeah. If you weren't a Sur artist, what brand would you pursue? Good question. Probably Fender. Probably, you know, for guitars anyway, because it's just, you know, it just would make sense, I think. But and I know some of those folks over there. They're nice folks. It would be a very different relationship. They're really nice people. It's a great big company though, so it's a totally different thing, you know, than my sort of personal relationship that I have with. You know, I talk to John all the time. I talked to him on the phone last night on the way home from here. So I call him. We talk every couple days, if not every day. So is really cool. Todd Roy says, "Did you see that hilarious video of Kotzen yesterday? I did, with his hair all crazy. I love that dude. He's hilarious. Total riot." All right. Well, I guess I should probably go and get some work done. So Rick says, "Have you got the BE Mini head?" I'm going to make a video for that thing because they asked me to, and they're friends of mine, and they've been going through some tough times with their fire and stuff. And so, of course, I'll make one for them. So I'll have a video coming out for that very soon. And I haven't messed with it, but I have one here. Yeah. What's your opinion on the new Boss Tone Bender? Haven't tried it, actually. Haven't got a chance to check that one out. So not sure. Yeah. What else? Anything else to just tie up the ends here? 4 more likes for 200. Give me a couple likes out there. Hit that like button. Oh yeah, and hey, if you need a Rocktron guitar silencer, or possibly a I don't know, set of, come here, Allen wrenches, or maybe you need a new guitar slide, hit up the link in the video description below and go to Sweetwater. It helps to support the channel with the little affiliate link down there. Oh, that's another video I have coming, actually. I almost forgot. I got a great mic, and I'm doing a little video in conjunction with Audio-Technica, Sweetwater, and myself. And it's for the 4050 mic, which I'm using on a cabinet. You actually heard it in the video yesterday for the Room 40 pedal, this one. I'm blending a 57 with an AT4050 on my cabinet in the other room. So AT4050 is a large diaphragm condenser. It's been out for 20 some years, and I think it's a sleeper microphone. I prefer it to a 414, and it's around the same price, a little less actually. It's about $100 less, I think. It's $699, I think. And it's been long one of my favorite guitar mics on electric guitar cabinets. And I learned about it from Live Sound folks. Kevin Ellison. He's a great live sound guy that also did records with Leonard Skinner and Journey, and he recorded Escape, I do believe. And anyway, he was Melissa Etheridge's live sound guy on a tour I was on. He used 4050s on my cabinets. I loved the sound. And also, I can always remember touring with the B-52s way back in the day. Like we were opening for them in the band I was in. And the guitar player in the B-52s had a great guitar sound with 2 AC30s in stereo with 2 4050s on each. Paul says, I love the AT4050. Yeah, really good mic. And it's this total sleeper, and it's underrated. So I'm going to do a video for it. And then maybe that'll come this week, I think. And then we'll talk about it on the show next week. We'll wrap it up with the on the live stream. I can say, what did you guys think? Because it's, to me, if you're going to have one large diaphragm mic, it's an awesome choice because you can use it on anything. I just think it sounds better than a 414 or something. We're talking sub $1,000 mics, not talking cheap mics here. You know, the 199, the whatever, the cheap, super cheap ones. This is a bit more like a serious, made in wherever. I guess AT's a Japanese company. I think the thing with AT is this: they never had back in the day their C12, right, or their 251, or their these legendary microphones, their U47. Even with Sony, they've got the C800, right? These legendary large diaphragm, seen as a really high quality mic that are like the old ones are coveted now, and they never had their mic like that, So it for whatever reason, not for any reason other than maybe they just weren't around until later and stuff. But you've got this sort of AKG, like the 414 looks like the C12A sort of, right? And so the 414 has this great reputation, stuff like that. I would take a 4050 over a 414 any day. 414s are pretty cool, the 4050 sounds better to me. You'll hear it on guitar cabs. I'll probably do a track where I record it on the cab and then also do some acoustic with it. And it's just a killer microphone. So I think it's a great all-purpose. You need one condenser in the studio, get that one. So that's going to be one I'm happy to do this week because I really feel there was a little bit of stuff, because obviously I already said I'm doing this in coordination with Audio-Technica and Sweetwater. There was a thread this week on the gear page, just to stir up some crap here. There was a thread this week about how YouTube is just nothing but paid advertising now, like full of paid advertising videos and I'm like, you know what, man? Like, no shit. First of all, let's get that out of the way. Like, a lot of us are making videos for companies and we get paid, be it in gear, be it in you charge a fee. But I was like, it doesn't make any difference because I send it back, first of all, if it sucks. So there's that. But if I get it and I plug it in and it sounds good, I'm happy to make a video. So I'll take this pedal, plug it in, try it in a few different amps. I'll try and show it off in the best light I can, dial in it's a great sounding pedal. So what's the difference? I plug it in, I get a good sound, I write a song with it, I get inspired, I dial in the stuff, and then I work. I work for 2 days. Like 2 days writing a song, producing a track, trying to come up with an interesting bass part, trying to come up with a cool solo, sitting here and mixing, while leaving the core tones like true too, so that if you get the pedal, you know what to expect, and then I bring it all into Final Cut. I talk about the pedal. I need to learn about it. I put time into doing that, and I make, I color grade the whole thing. I edit it all up. I make it. It takes 2 days. What adult out there has 2 days to make YouTube videos for free? Who does that? Like, you don't have time with, how the hell would this room costs me money every month, I have to pay for it. I've got a mortgage. I've got the power to, I've got to pay for the air conditioning. I got to pay for, I got to put food on the table. So it's like, can we just get it out of the way? Yes. People are doing a job, it's a job. So the Paul Davids video that he made for that MIDI guitar. Watch that thing. Like, it is a work of art. It is a beautiful video. It's shot beautifully. He composed beautiful music with it. He, the learning curve on the thing, learning how to MIDI it up to all his stuff that he had to do. I know it took him 5-6 days to make that video, for sure, hands down. Now, back in the day, you would have seen an ad in Guitar Player magazine, and you would have paid for the Guitar Player magazine, right? You bought the magazine, you flip through, there's a half-page ad for some small company making a MIDI guitar. And you would have seen it, and then you would have gone, oh, MIDI guitar. And then you flip the page, go on to the next thing. That's all you got, right? And that ad would have cost the company $5,000, right? To put in Guitar Player for the month or whatever, right? Nowadays, they'll go to Paul and he will make this beautiful video. It'll take him days and days and days. And yes, he's getting paid for sure. He's getting paid. He should get paid well, because you can watch it and it's entertaining as hell. He wrote this beautiful piece of music. You get this sense of what the thing does. It lives on YouTube forever, and on their website, they can embed it. And you got people saying, it's just paid shills, making, oh, fuck off. Like, come on, give me a break. Of course he's getting paid. He should get paid. If you're interested in a MIDI guitar, it's like, like, what are you telling me? Somebody's going to go out and buy one for like $3,000 or whatever, and then they're going to make an amazing video as good as Paul's and put as much time into it and learn it as well and edit it all and then put it on the internet? Who does that? It doesn't really happen, Occasionally, okay, you'll see with some of the top YouTube guys, you'll see, I bought this. I paid for it, and this isn't a review that was sponsored by occasionally you see that. But it's with the guys that can kind of afford to do that, because they know they're, Rhett does that sometimes, some different people, that they have the time to do it because they're going to put out a video that actually ends up paying them in the advertising anyway, It's kind of like the video that Music is Win did for the Klon when he bought it. And he's like, well, if this video, because he paid $5,000 for a pedal, for a Klon. And it's like, if he pays for that pedal, he's like, well, $5,000. He's like, if this video gets 1 million views, it'll probably pay for itself. I'll make the $5,000 back, so I'll split it even. So okay, I'll buy it. So then he hits buy, this is the thing. If your video is going to get that kind of views, maybe you can afford to do it. But otherwise, if your video is going to, like most of the good demo guys out there, your video gets somewhere between 7 to 10,000 to maybe on the upper end if it's a really crazy product that takes off a couple 100,000 views. You know, my top ones for the Helix maybe have 400,000 views now. You know, the most for a pedal demo. You know, you don't see too many videos that get more than that. You know, so in that case, there's no way to do these things without being compensated in some way, because I would go broke and I would have to, you know, sell my place, and there's just no way to do it. So the goal here is, yes, it's marketing. There's no doubt it's marketing. There's no doubt that's what's going on, but it's real simple. If I don't like it, I'll just send it back. And if I do like it, I'm going to put in a hard couple days work, and I'm going to do the absolute best I can to show it off, explain what it is. And it's no different than flipping through Guitar Player magazine and seeing that ad, except you can hear it. You can get a sense of what it sounds like with different guitars. You can rewatch it. It's so much more valuable. So it's just silly. It's a silly thing to complain, and it's free. You had to buy the Guitar Player magazine. YouTube is free. So anyways, that's my rant. Done with that. And with that, I will jet. And thanks for listening to me ramble. Okay, everybody, have a great week, and watch out for the video. This one I'm not getting paid for, the train wreck this week. Now, it'll be a fun one. Just, I love the idea of documenting these historical, you know, these pieces of history, these legendary amps. So that'll be coming this week. Everybody have a terrific week. I really appreciate you all being here. This is a BMRC shirt. Yes, it is. One of my favorite bands. And I love them. They're real rock and roll. Okay. See you guys.